Okay, today's free online modern American shamanism video is on oaths and swearing oaths. Feeling a little bit better this week. The last two times I made videos, my back was really out of place and I was doing really bad, so hopefully I can be a little more focused this time. Oaths and what oaths mean. Okay, in the heathen tradition, the Norse pagan tradition, whatever you want to call it, Northern European, oaths were something that were taken very seriously. They were not just something that you did because you had a free minute. Um, Not all oaths were sworn on oath rings, but some were. And so, speaking of, this is our oath ring. I forget where we got it from. I think I got it online, but I just really liked it and purchased it. That's just basically where it came from. Um, there are several kinds. There are ones that are complete circles, or some made of copper, some made out of stainless steel. I've even seen some made out of tungsten and some made out of wood. Um, the important thing to remember if you're going to use an oath ring is that you're saying an oath. That's it. That's all you need to really remember is that you're saying an oath, and you probably don't need to say an oath. And because if you swear an oath, people today usually don't comprehend that you are deeply promising something that you cannot break. Um, it's even more binding than a contract you signed to buy your house or something because shit, in today's society, you can even file for bankruptcy and let the bank have your house and go on your way. So even legal contracts aren't as binding as oaths where you give your word that you're going to do something. And another ritual that's closely tied to oaths is the blood brother ritual, which is just a very specific ritualistic oath kind of ritual. And we're going to get into that probably early this spring. But unless you've read our post on it before, been to one of our classes, 9 times out of 10, most people don't really understand what a blood brother ritual in the northern tradition actually is, because there's one in this out of the sagas, and it's a really good one, but you have to wait for that video. Anyway, back to oaths. When you say an oath, particularly the type of oath that you're saying, you're bound by your word and by law. And if you are silly enough to invoke any of the gods when you do an oath, you are bound through them as well. Now, there's nothing goofy or silly about invoking any of the gods or goddesses when you're doing an oath, but that just adds another layer onto your oath that makes it should make it nearly impossible for you to break. A lot of people don't comprehend that the reason Odin in the Icelandic and Scandinavian lore, the reason Odin puts up with Loki's antics so much is that he swore a blood brother oath with him. Okay, so he's literally closer to Loki, Odin is, than he is to his wife and his children, and Loki actually has to come before any decision he makes for his family or himself. And so that's why Odin puts up with Loki for so long in the Eddas because of that oath. And it's that level of commitment that you should be giving when you swear an oath. Okay. So like people just like randomly make these New Year's uh, oaths and commitments and stuff. Oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the first 3 months of 2021 or whatever. Now imagine if somebody kept a little register of that and you hadn't lost 20 pounds in 3 months and say they could put you to death because you didn't keep up your New Year's oath. That's the kind of level that you should be thinking when you think about making an oath, not just randomly making one. I know in America we've gotten it's kind of like an oath culture. I swear I'll do this, or I say I'm going to do that, and then we never do it and never think about it again. And that's part of the problem with the way we go about our lives today. Um, we let our word, what we say we're going to do, mean nothing, and nobody has a problem with that. My favorite one is when I hear, "Oh, he said he was going to do that, but I didn't think he'd do it anyway, so I just went ahead and did something else." And I'm like, "Okay." But when you're using swearing an oath, and if you're going to go through even especially if you're going to go through the ritual of using an oath ring, however you want to acquire one or make one, Make sure that it's something you want to do. Okay. Uh, we use a really loose format for this. There are some specific ones, but we don't get into those too much, except for the more intermediate classes about how you use an oath ring. So, like a really basic generic version from the sagas is you have an oath ring, okay? And you're holding one side, and the person that you're going to swear an oath to is holding the other, and you guys agree on an oath. Like I say, I need my garden tilled a minimum in 2 weeks from now, and the other person has got a tiller and says I give you my word, I'm gonna make an oath that I'm gonna till your garden before 2 weeks is up. Okay, and then boom, and then he has to do that. He has to, if he has to call in sick to work, or something like that, just to make sure that my garden's tilled within 2 weeks. That's the level of commitment he is promising when he makes an oath. Okay. It has to be that severe. When you say you're going to do something, you have to make that happen. Okay. It's none of this. It was 4 weeks before I got the tilling. As I said, I'd do it in 2, but I did it in 4. It's done. It's not like that. We've got to stop going through our lives, especially in like a Germanic or Norse heathen pagan kind of context. If we give our word, we swear, especially if we swear an oath, that stuff needs to happen when, where, why, and how we said we'd make that happen. Okay. The outline for the basic ritual, which I just covered, really simple. You don't need candles, don't need mead, don't even need a horn. You just need an oath ring, or you can even shake hands and swear an oath. But if you do that, that is beyond binding, beyond what people today would consider even thinking about. You have to understand it's like, I know I'm just rattling on about this, but it's just that important. Okay. Um, and if you make an oath to the gods, just stop right now. Don't even bother doing that. Don't. Okay. Stop and think about what you're doing, because I have heard people, these oaths they've made to the gods, and I've even had people ask me about making oaths to the gods, and I'll ask them, say, what kind of oath are you wanting to make to the gods? And they going, oh, I'm gonna ask the gods for a Corvette, and if they give me one, I'm gonna sacrifice all my cats and a bull, and I'll worship them for 30 hours every day for the rest of my life. And I'm like, one, no, and two, no. I mean, it doesn't and should not work that way. If you're going to work with the gods, okay. Now, depending on what part of Northern Europe you're from, um, people either worked with certain deities or powers. I keep throwing the word God around, God and gods and goddesses around, even though the Germans and the Scandinavian people didn't use that word. But it's just easier, so I still do it. But the average person, they found War of Thor's hammer Mjolnir, because he was the protectors of humans, and the average person wore one because technically, us all coming from Nerthus or Jord or Earth, we're all technically little brothers and sisters of Thor, so there's that family thing. Okay. Now, archaeology has determined that a lot of wealthy people uh, kind of worshipped and looked after altars for Odin and stuff because of the knowledge and they felt like, yeah, they were on Odin's level because they could read and write and they had money and stuff, and that's why they kind of went with there. But that there's not really a rock hard concept that Northern Europeans had, what Southern European pagan practices call um, specific deities for, I just lost the word, a patron god or goddesses. Thank you. In that concept. So you don't need to run around and like swear oaths to certain gods and goddesses that, you're going to be like their right hand human and stuff, and that you're going to do specific things every day in their name and honor, because eventually you're just going to miss one day. You were you were dead, but then you started feeling better and you missed 2 days of doing something, and now you think, I've got a legitimate excuse. But do you? Because you gave your word. You made an oath. Okay? So you don't need to swear oaths to the gods and goddesses. Okay? You can make sacrifices to the gods and goddesses. Okay? But an oath is not something that you need to do. It's not, I feel, personal thing here. I feel it's not something that they're looking for as far as the Northern European traditions go, because you don't see them in the Eddas running around trying to get people to swear oaths to them. It's not how they lived their day. So, all right, this is getting over 10 minutes now, but oath ring. Each person hold one side. You make a legitimate, simple oath. If you're going to make oaths, keep them small. Not, I'm going to water your garden every day for the next 7 months, because eventually you're going to miss one day. Okay? It may sound stupid and it may sound simplistic, but you broke your oath. And a lot of shit went into repairing a broken oath. That a lot of times they took this to the all thing or to court, and Guild was awarded, which could mean today you'd have to give up your car to the other person because you missed one day of watering their garden. It depends on how the court saw things and how things came out. Think about that too. So think small. Like tomorrow at noon, I'm going to do something. Or, for the next 2 days, I'm going to do this. But keep things small, keep them simple. Don't make grand gestures and grand plans. So I hope you found this useful. Sorry for the little bit of rambling, but I do find this very important because it's so simple and people overlook it so much. Modern American Shamanism, Crow Spirit, myself, thank you. Hope you found this video very useful.